You learn to trust your gut after 67 years. That afternoon, watching my son's hands shake as he poured coffee, I knew something was wrong. Brian never had shaky hands. "Dad, I've got an incredible opportunity for you," he said, setting the cup in front of me with too much care, like he was handling explosives. "Remember how you always said you wished you'd gotten in on commercial real estate earlier?" I did remember. I'd said it once, maybe twice, 20 years ago when Claire was alive, and we'd driven past a shopping center, going up near our house. But Brian remembered. He always remembered the things that mattered to him. "I'm listening," I said, even though something in his voice that rehearsed cheerfulness reminded me of the calls I used to get when I worked at Morgan Stanley. The ones where someone had already decided to lie before they picked up the phone. He pulled out a folder, too thick, too organized for Brian. My son was smart, brilliant even, but organized? The Brian I knew kept his tax documents in a shoebox and forgot his own daughter's recital last month. "There's a mixed-use development going up in Tempe. Ground floor retail, residential above. The developer needs private investors, and I've already secured 3 units. He slid papers across my kitchen table, the same table where Claire and I had helped him with algebra homework 30 years ago. "Projected returns are 18 to 22% annually. I've got 1 unit left, and I thought of you first." 18 to 22%. In this market. "Who's the developer?" I asked. "Silver Point Development Group. They did that luxury complex near Scottsdale Fashion Square. Impeccable reputation." I nodded slowly, watching his left knee bounce under the table. Brian's tell. He'd had it since he was 8 years old. Every time he'd tried to convince his mother he hadn't eaten the cookies before dinner. "The thing is, Dad, they need commitment this week. The closing window is tight because of permit deadlines." His voice picked up speed. "I know it's fast, but this is the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around twice. I've already put in $200,000 of my own money." $200,000. Brian, who'd called me 6 months ago asking to borrow $1,500 for his mortgage payment. "Let me think about it," I said. His face fell, just for a second, before the smile snapped back into place. Of course. But Dad, seriously, don't think too long. These units are going fast." After he left, I sat at that table for an hour, looking at the papers. Everything looked legitimate. Developer logo, legal language, projected timelines. There was even a glossy brochure with architectural renderings. But Brian's hands had shaken. I called Jennifer that evening. My daughter, the pediatrician, who'd somehow inherited her mother's ability to see through bullshit. "Dad, when's the last time Brian had $200,000? She asked, her voice tight. "That's what I thought." "Did he ask you for money?" "He's offering me an investment opportunity." Silence on the other end. Then, "Dad, please tell me you didn't give him anything." "I'm not an idiot, Jenny." "I know you're not. But he's your son, and you want to believe him." Her voice cracked slightly. "I want to believe him too, but he's been different lately. Desperate. His business isn't doing well. Melissa told me they're 3 months behind on the mortgage." Melissa, Brian's wife. They'd been married 12 years, and I'd watched her bright optimism slowly dim every time Brian's next big venture collapsed. "I'll look into it," I told Jennifer. "Carefully, Dad. Please." The next morning, I called my former colleague, Richard Chen, who'd retired from Morgan Stanley the same year I had, but kept his fingers in the real estate world. "Silver Point Development Group?" Richard repeated. "Tom, there's no such company. I've got connections all over Phoenix." "Never heard of them." My stomach turned cold. "Are you sure?" Ran it through every database I have access to. No permits filed in Tempe for any mixed-use development matching that description. No company registered under that name in Arizona, Nevada, or California. He paused. "Tom, where did you hear about this?" "Brian." The silence stretched between us, heavy with understanding. "I'm sorry, Tom." "Yeah, me too." I drove to the address listed on the brochure the next day. It was a vacant lot, nothing but dirt and weeds, with a faded for lease sign that looked like it had been there for years. No construction equipment, no permits posted, nothing. I stood there in the Arizona heat, sweat soaking through my shirt, and thought about the last time I'd truly looked at my son, really looked at him. It had been at Claire's funeral, 3 years ago. He'd stood at the back of the church, sunglasses on, even though we were indoors, and left before the reception. At the time, I'd thought he was grieving. Now I wondered what he'd really been doing. My phone rang. Brian. Dad. Hey, have you had a chance to think about the investment? I've got 2 other people interested in that last unit, but I'm holding them off because I really want you to have this opportunity. Pressure. Classic sales tactic. I'd used it myself back when I was younger and stupider and thought making money was the same thing as being successful. Brian, I've got some questions about Silver Point development. His breathing changed on the other end. Just slightly. Sure. What do you want to know? I want to meet them, the developers, before I invest. Oh, well, they're pretty busy with the construction phase, but I can reach out. I want to meet them this week, or I'm not interested. Silence. Then, Dad, I don't think you understand how these things work. You're investing through me. I'm the point of contact. That's how private investment works. Brian, I was a financial advisor for 42 years. I understand exactly how it works. Dad, I'm standing in the vacant lot right now. The address from your brochure. There's nothing here. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I could hear him breathing, could almost see him calculating, trying to figure out his next move. I can explain, he finally said. I'm sure you can. The address on the brochure is old. They moved the project location. That's why. Brian, stop. Dad, you have to understand. I'm in a really bad position right now. The business is struggling, and Melissa's talking about leaving, and you just needed to steal from your father. I wasn't stealing. I was going to pay you back, I swear. There's this other opportunity, a real one, and if I could just get some capital together. I hung up. My hands were shaking now. Not like Brian's careful tremors, but violent shakes that made me sit down on the curb of that empty lot, right there in the dirt, because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. This was the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd stayed up with all night when Claire was in the hospital having emergency surgery, and he was so scared he couldn't stop crying. The young man I'd co-signed student loans for, helped with his first business plan, bailed out when his restaurant idea collapsed. The man who was willing to scam me out of God knows how much money with fake investment paperwork. My phone rang again. Jennifer. Brian just called me crying, she said. Dad, what happened? I told her. Everything. The fake company, the vacant lot, the desperate phone call. Oh my God, she whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. Did you know? No. I knew he was struggling, but I didn't think. I never thought he did. She was crying now. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What do you do when your own child tries to rob you? When the person you'd sacrifice anything for looks at you and sees nothing but an ATM with a heartbeat? I don't know yet, I said. But I did know. I just didn't want to say it out loud. I went home and did something I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I went into Claire's office, the room I'd kept exactly as she'd left it the morning of the car accident that took her from me. Her computer was still there, password protected, but I knew the password. I'd always known it. Our wedding anniversary, backwards. I opened her email. There were folders I'd never seen. Brian, concerns. My stomach dropped as I clicked it. Emails going back 5 years, Claire reaching out to financial counselors, printouts of Brian's business debts, a consultation request with a lawyer about how to protect our assets. She'd known he was heading down this path, and she'd been trying to protect us both. The last email was dated 2 days before she died. Tom won't listen to me about Brian. He thinks I'm being too hard on him. But I've seen the signs, the lying, the borrowing, the schemes, each one bigger than the last. I'm scared that one day he's going to really hurt someone, and Tom's love will blind him to it until it's too late. I need to talk to Tom this weekend. Really talk to him. Make him see what I see. She never got that weekend. I sat in her chair, in her space that still smelled faintly of her perfume, and cried for the first time since her funeral. Not just for her, but for the years I'd wasted defending Brian. For every time Claire had tried to warn me and I'd dismissed her concerns as a mother being overprotective. For the son I thought I had versus the man he'd actually become. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Dad, please. Let me explain in person. I'm coming over. I texted back. Don't. But 20 minutes later, his car pulled into my driveway. I met him at the door. Didn't let him in. Dad, please, just hear me out. I'm listening. He looked terrible. Eyes red, shirt wrinkled, that same desperate energy radiating off him that I'd mistaken for enthusiasm. I got in over my head with some bad investments. Real ones, I swear. And then there were medical bills when Chloe broke her arm, and the business is seasonal, and Melissa's been on me about the mortgage. And I panicked. I thought if I could get some quick capital, I could turn everything around, pay everyone back, make it right. By creating a fake company and lying to your father, I was going to pay you back. I've got a real deal in the works with a buddy who's flipping houses in Gilbert. We could double the money in 6 months. Brian, do you hear yourself? You're trying to convince me to give you money by describing another risky investment. It's not risky. This is legitimate. Was this legitimate? I held up the Silver Point brochure. Did you make these yourself, or did you pay someone to fake them for you? His face crumbled. Dad, I'm drowning. I'm actually drowning, and you're the only one who can help me. By letting you steal from me. It's not stealing if I pay you back. Brian, your mother knew. Did you know that? She knew you were heading down this path. She tried to warn me, and I didn't listen. She died trying to protect me from you. That stopped him cold. What are you talking about? She had files, consultations with lawyers, plans to protect our assets from you. The last email she ever wrote was about how she was scared of what you were becoming. My voice broke. She was right. No, Mom. Wouldn't she loved me? She did love you. That's why she was so scared. Because she could see what I couldn't. That my son was turning into someone who would lie to me, manipulate me, steal from me, and call it help. Brian's face twisted into something ugly. You're just like her. Never believing in me. Always assuming the worst. I'm trying to build something, and all you do is tear me down. I gave you $50,000 for your restaurant, $20,000 for your real estate license, $15,000 for your consulting business. How much money have I given you over the years, Brian? How much? That was helping. That was being a father. And this? Creating fake documents to trick me into giving you more? What's that? He didn't answer. Just stood there on my porch, breathing hard, looking at me with something between hatred and desperation. Get off my property, I said quietly. Dad, get off my property, or I'm calling the police and reporting fraud. He left. Tires squealing, gravel spraying, the same way he'd left everything his entire adult life. Loud, messy, and with someone else left to clean up the damage. Jennifer came over that evening with Chinese takeout and a bottle of scotch. How are you holding up? She asked, unpacking containers in my kitchen. I'm old, not made of glass. Dad, I sighed. I don't know, Jenny. I feel like I failed. As a father, as a husband. Claire tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. You loved him. That's not failure. Isn't it? When that love makes you blind to someone hurting you? She was quiet for a moment, pushing fried rice around with her chopsticks. I talked to Melissa. She's leaving him, taking Chloe, and moving back to her parents' place in Tucson. My granddaughter, 8 years old, with Claire's eyes and too much experience with disappointment. She knows about the scam? She knew before we did. He tried it on her parents first. They said no, so he moved on to you. Jennifer's voice was thick with anger. She's done, Dad, and she wants to know if you'll testify if this goes to court. She's filing for full custody, and she needs documentation of his fraud attempts. Would I testify against my own son? 3 days ago, the answer would have been no. Absolutely not, no matter what he'd done. But I kept thinking about Claire's email, about the conversation we never got to have, about how she'd spent her last days trying to protect me from what she could see coming. Yeah, I said finally. I'll testify. The police report was filed the next morning. Fraud attempt. I provided the fake documents, the vacant lot photos, Richard's testimony about the non-existent company. The detective who took my statement was young, maybe 30, and she had kind eyes that made me feel every one of my 67 years. Mr. Morrison, I have to ask, do you understand that if we pursue this, Your son could face criminal charges. I understand. And you want to proceed? I thought about Brian at 8 years old, standing in our backyard with a baseball glove too big for his hands. About Brian at 16, crying in my car after his first breakup. About Brian at 25, standing at the altar with Melissa, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. About Brian at 35, looking me in the eye and lying about everything. Yes, I said. I want to proceed. Brian was arrested 3 weeks later. Not for attempting to defraud me, that investigation was still ongoing, but for wire fraud in relation to a separate scheme targeting elderly investors in Sun City. Apparently, I wasn't his only target, just his most convenient one. The news hit the local paper. Local real estate agent arrested in elder fraud scheme. My phone rang off the hook. Former colleagues, neighbors, people from church. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I'd heard about poor Brian. Poor Brian. I stopped answering the phone. Jennifer came over every evening. Sometimes she'd cook. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence, watching the news or old movies or nothing at all. She never asked if I was okay. She knew better. 3 months later, I got a letter from Brian. Jail stationery. The return address made my hands shake. I almost didn't open it. Left it on the counter for 2 days, just looking at it every time I walked past. But finally, late one night, when I couldn't sleep, I opened it. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to understand. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. Sorry for who I became. They've got me in therapy here. Mandatory. And the therapist keeps asking me when it started. When I decided that everyone else was just a resource to be used. When money became more important than people. I keep thinking about the restaurant. That first business failure. How ashamed I was. How I couldn't face telling Mom I'd blown through all that money in 6 months. And you just gave me more. Told me every entrepreneur fails before they succeed. Helped me try again. And I think that's when it started. When I learned that failure didn't really matter because you'd always be there to catch me. That I could take risks with other people's money because the consequences weren't really mine to bear. I kept waiting for you to stop me. For someone to tell me no. Really no. The kind of no that had consequences attached. But it never came. So I kept going. And the lies got easier. And the schemes got bigger. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing people as people and started seeing them as solutions to my problems. Including you. Mom knew. I realize that now. She tried to stop me. Tried to make you stop me. But I played you both. Told you she was being unfair. Made you choose between her concerns and my dreams. And you chose me. Every time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Not just for the scam, but for all of it. For every time I lied. For every dollar I took. For making Mom spend her last years worrying about me instead of enjoying her life with you. The prosecutor offered a deal. 18 months if I cooperate and provide evidence on the other people involved in the Sun City scheme. My lawyer says I should take it. I'm going to take it. Not because 18 months is easy, but because I need to stop running. Stop scheming. Stop looking for the next angle. I need to sit with what I've done. Feel it. Carry it. I don't expect you to visit. I don't expect you to write back. I just needed you to know that I finally understand what Mom was trying to tell you. What you tried to tell me that day on your porch. Love without boundaries becomes enabling. I love you, Dad, even though I have a terrible way of showing it. Brian, I read that letter 10 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in Claire's desk drawer, with all her other files about Brian. I didn't write back. 6 months later, Jennifer told me Brian's sentencing was scheduled. 18 months, as promised, in a minimum security facility in Florence. Melissa's divorce was finalized. She'd won full custody of Chloe, with Brian allowed supervised visits once he was released. Are you going to the sentencing? Jennifer asked. No. Dad, he's still your son. I know, but I'm still allowed to be hurt. She nodded, didn't push. My daughter had learned somewhere along the way to let people feel their feelings without trying to fix them. The night of the sentencing, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 in the morning and went to Claire's office, turned on her computer, read her emails again. All of them. Every warning she'd tried to give me. Every concern I'd dismissed. "You were right," I said to the empty room. To the ghost of my wife who'd tried to save me from my own love. "I'm sorry I didn't listen." The room didn't answer. But I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly. Not peace. But maybe the first step toward it. I started going to a support group. Elder fraud victims. It was held in a church basement in Scottsdale. Fluorescent lights and bad coffee and a circle of chairs that always had too many empty seats. Everyone had the same story with different details. The grandson who needed bail money. The daughter who had a can't-miss investment opportunity. The nephew with the medical emergency. The caretaker who borrowed the checkbook. The financial advisor who wasn't actually registered with anyone. We were all old enough to know better. And we all loved someone enough to be stupid anyway. My son said he'd pay me back, I told the group at my third meeting. And I believe he meant it when he said it. But meaning it doesn't make it true. A woman across from me nodded. Her daughter had stolen her jewelry, sold it, and used the money to buy drugs. "They always mean it," she said. In that moment, they really believe they'll make it right. But addiction, desperation, whatever's driving them, it's stronger than their good intentions. "Does it get easier?" I asked. "The guilt?" "Which guilt? For loving them or for stopping them?" "Both." She smiled sadly. "No. But you learn to live with it. You learn that loving someone and protecting yourself from them can exist in the same space. It's not comfortable, but it's honest. Honest." I thought about that word a lot in the months that followed. Brian served his time. 18 months, minus time served, minus good behavior. He was released in early spring, moved into a halfway house in Phoenix, got a job in construction. Real construction this time. 40 hours a week, paycheck every Friday, no schemes attached. Jennifer kept me updated. I didn't ask, but she told me anyway. I think she was trying to build a bridge I wasn't ready to cross. "He's doing well, Dad. Really well. Melissa says he's been consistent with the supervised visits. He's in therapy 3 times a week. He's actually different. Good for him." "Dad, what do you want me to say, Jenny? That I forgive him? That 18 months in minimum security erases what he did?" "No. I just want you to consider that maybe he's actually changing. Maybe he is. But that doesn't obligate me to forget." She was quiet. "Then, Mom would want you to forgive him. Your mother died trying to protect me from him. Don't tell me what she would want." It was harsh. Too harsh. Jennifer's face crumpled, and I immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry," I said. "That wasn't fair." "No, you're right. I don't know what Mom would want. I miss having a whole family, and I know that's selfish, but I do. Jenny, you have a whole family. You have me, you have Marcus, and the kids. You have a career you love, and friends, and a life. Brian's absence doesn't make us incomplete. But don't you miss him? Even a little?" The honest answer was complicated. Did I miss the son I thought I had? The one who was ambitious and funny and called me every Sunday? Yes, every day. Did I miss the man who'd tried to scam me? Who'd lied to my face? Who'd spent years using everyone around him as props in his schemes? Not even a little. "I miss who I thought he was," I said finally. "But I don't know if that person ever really existed." A year after his release, Brian reached out. Not a letter this time. A text message. "Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I'm getting married. Small ceremony next month. Nothing fancy. I understand if you don't want to come, but I wanted you to know. Also, I've been paying Melissa child support consistently for 8 months now, and I've been saving to pay you back. It's not much yet, but I have $2,000 set aside. I can send it to you if you want, or save it until I have more. Whatever you prefer. Brian." I stared at that text for a long time. Getting married. Moving on. With his life. $2,000 out of the $200,000 he'd tried to steal from me. 8 months of child support out of the years he'd owed. Was it enough? No. Not even close. But was it something? I called Jennifer. Did you know about this? About what? Brian's getting married. Oh, yeah. I got an invitation last week. Are you going? I don't know yet. Marcus thinks I should, for Chloe's sake. She's excited about it. Brian's fiancée has kids from a previous marriage, and Chloe likes them. Who's the fiancée? Her name's Rachel. She's a teacher. 2nd grade. Divorced. Met Brian at his AA meetings. He's in AA? Has been for a year. Didn't you know? How would I know? I haven't talked to him. Jennifer was quiet. Dad, I'm not saying you have to forgive him, or forget, or even see him, but maybe you could acknowledge that he's trying? He's doing the work. He's actually changing. People don't change, Jenny. Yes, they do. Mom changed you. You used to be a workaholic who put career before everything. And then you met Mom, and you learned to prioritize family. You changed. That's different. Is it? Or is it just easier to believe in change when it's ourselves doing the changing? I didn't go to the wedding, but I didn't ignore the invitation either. I sent a card, no message, just my name signed at the bottom, and a check for $2,000, the amount Brian had saved to pay me back. Put this toward your honeymoon, I wrote. Consider your debt partially forgiven. Partially. Because complete forgiveness felt like lying, felt like saying what he'd done was okay, that the hurt he'd caused didn't matter, and it did matter. It mattered every time I looked at Claire's photo and thought about how she'd died, still worrying about him. It mattered every time I went to use my credit card and had to double-check that he hadn't somehow stolen the information. It mattered in the small, daily ways that trauma always matters, long after the crisis has passed. But partial forgiveness? That felt honest. That felt like saying, I see you trying. I acknowledge the work you're doing. I don't trust you yet, but I'm not actively rooting against you. It was the best I could do. Brian called the day after he received the card. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Dad, thank you. Not just for the check, but for the message. I know partially forgiven doesn't sound like much, but to me, it's everything. It means there's a door that's not completely closed. That maybe someday, if I keep doing the work, keep being consistent, keep showing up, maybe someday we can talk again. Really talk. I'm not asking for that now. I'm just saying thank you for leaving it as a possibility. I love you, Dad. I saved that voicemail. Didn't delete it. Didn't listen to it again either. Just kept it there, in my phone. Like a bookmark in a story I wasn't ready to keep reading. Another year passed. Then another. Brian sent updates through Jennifer. Photos of his stepdaughters. News about his continued sobriety. Copies of the checks he was sending to his restitution fund. A graduation certificate from a community college business ethics course. He was building a resume of trustworthiness. Line by line, month by month. Was it working? I didn't know yet, but I'd stopped deleting his messages unread. I'd started looking at the photos Jennifer showed me. I'd noticed that in the recent ones, Brian's eyes looked clear in a way they hadn't in years. Maybe people could change. Maybe my son was proof of it. Or maybe he was just getting better at pretending. Either way, I wasn't ready to find out which. I visited Claire's grave on her birthday. Brought flowers like I always did. Tulips. Her favorite. I don't know what to do, I told her headstone. He's changing, or he says he is. Everyone thinks I should forgive him. Move on. Be the bigger person. The wind blew through the cemetery, rustling the trees. But you tried to warn me, and I didn't listen. And I think if I forgive him too easily, I'm dishonoring what you tried to do. Does that make sense? No answer. Just the wind and the birds and the sound of traffic in the distance. I love him, I said. That's the hardest part. I still love him, even after everything. Even knowing what he tried to do to me. Is that weak? Or is it just human? I sat there for a long time, talking to my wife, who couldn't answer, trying to figure out a problem that maybe didn't have a solution. Maybe that was the point. Maybe some things don't get resolved, they just get lived with. The love and the hurt existing side by side, neither one canceling out the other, both of them true at the same time. Love without boundaries had enabled Brian's worst impulses. But love with too many walls would make me someone I didn't want to be either. bitter, closed. The kind of person who measured every relationship against the possibility of betrayal. Somewhere between those two extremes was the right answer. I just hadn't found it yet. I'm still figuring it out, I told Claire. But I'm trying. That's all I can promise. That I'm trying. The sun was setting as I drove home, painting the Arizona sky in shades of orange and pink that Claire would have loved. My phone buzzed at a red light. Brian. A text. Dad, I know I don't have the right to ask anything from you, but Chloe's having a piano recital next week. She's been asking if Grandpa Tom will come. No pressure, but if you want to, I'll make sure we don't have to interact. You can come late, leave early, whatever you need. She'd just really like you there. She's playing a Chopin piece. The same one Grandma Claire used to play. Brian. The same one Claire used to play. The light turned green. Cars honked behind me. I pulled over into a gas station parking lot, hands shaking again, but for a different reason this time. Chloe was 10 now. Old enough to remember the good times before everything fell apart. Young enough to not understand all the details of why her grandfather had disappeared from her life. This wasn't about Brian. This was about my granddaughter. About not punishing her for her father's mistakes. I texted back. Send me the details. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Thank you, Dad. The recital was in a high school auditorium. I arrived late on purpose. Slipped into a back row seat. Jennifer spotted me, smiled, waved. Brian was in the front row with Rachel and her daughters. He glanced back once, caught my eye, nodded. I nodded back. Then Chloe walked on stage. She looked like Claire. Same determined expression. Same way of sitting at the piano like she was settling in for battle. She adjusted the bench, flexed her fingers, and began to play. Chopin's Nocturne, in E-flat major. The piece Claire had played at our wedding. The piece she'd played when she was stressed or sad or just needed to think. The piece I'd heard drifting through our house for 35 years. And now my granddaughter was playing it. Perfectly. Beautifully. With the same emotion her grandmother had brought to it. I cried. Right there in the back row, in a room full of strangers and family that used to be whole. I cried for everything we'd lost and everything that was still worth saving. When the recital ended, Chloe ran to me in the lobby. Grandpa Tom, you came. Of course I came. You think I'd miss this? Dad said you might be busy. I glanced at Brian, who was standing a respectful distance away, watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. I'm never too busy for you, I told Chloe. She hugged me, fierce and tight, the way only kids can hug, like they're trying to squeeze all their love into your bones. Did you like it? Did I sound like Grandma? You sounded exactly like her. She would have been so proud. Chloe beamed. Then, with the casual cruelty of children who don't understand complicated adult emotions, maybe you and Dad can talk now? He misses you, he told me. Over her head, Brian's eyes met mine. He shook his head slightly. Chloe, Grandpa doesn't have to. It's okay, I heard myself say. We can talk. Briefly. Jennifer took Chloe for ice cream, giving Brian and me space in the emptying lobby. We stood there, 2 men who used to be father and son, trying to figure out how to be anything to each other now. Thank you for coming, Brian said finally. I came for Chloe. I know. That's why I made sure to invite you. Because even if you can't be in my life anymore, she shouldn't have to lose you too. That surprised me. The selflessness of it. The acknowledgement that his actions had consequences beyond just himself. She's a good kid, I said. She is. Despite my best efforts to screw things up for her, he smiled sadly. I'm trying to be better. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me. I've said it before and not followed through. But this time I really mean it. You meant it before too. Yeah, but meaning it and doing it are different things. I'm learning that. We stood in silence. The awkward, painful silence of people who used to know each other's rhythms and now had to learn them again from scratch. I'm not ready yet, I said finally. To forgive, to forget, to go back to how things were. I know, but I'm also not. I'm not completely closed off, if that makes sense. It does. If you keep doing what you're doing, keep being consistent, keep being honest, Keep choosing the hard right thing over the easy wrong thing. I paused, trying to find the right words. Maybe someday we can have more than this. More than awkward conversations in high school lobbies. Brian's eyes filled with tears. I'll keep doing the work, I promise. Not to earn your forgiveness, because I know I might never fully earn that, but because it's the right thing to do. Because Chloe deserves a father who shows up. Because Rachel deserves a husband who tells the truth. Because I deserve to live a life I'm not ashamed of. I nodded. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in years. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay. We didn't hug. Didn't shake hands. Just stood there acknowledging what was broken and what might, maybe, eventually, be rebuilt. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was an honest one. And maybe that was enough.